I can never get through how steep these hills are over here for an incline test. I'm going to take a photo of that real quick and just overlay that on the screen right now. But action cameras always flatten out hills, and it's always a hard thing to explain how steep these hills actually are, and most bikes won't make it up these hills here with the steepness. But this bike here is actually fairly torquey. I'm going to hit it at its steepest point right here, and we're going to see if it'll make it up this thing. Not without a run at it. But let's get a run at it. Here we go, going back to the same spot with a run at it. And, oh, almost. Oh, that is so steep, but I also weigh 190, so maybe a lighter rider would have been able to make it up there. Okay, I came to this specific marker right here because it says Urbana, 10 miles that way. This bike has a 30 amp hour battery, so the big thing that I'm testing today is range per power. So I'm going to go down into like pedal assist level 3, and we're going to do most of this ride at 20 miles per hour, and we're going to go 10 miles down, 10 miles back. If this thing indeed has a 30 amp hour battery, it should cover that without any problems. Before I do that, I'm going to go through our different pedal assist levels. All right, I'm going to test this against GPS. I'm going to not be pedaling this bike today. I'm going to let the bike do all of the work. These moped style bikes are cool, but I can't get a good pedal stroke on any of them. I'm 5'10", and me pedaling any moped style bike has always just been a kind of pointless endeavor. So we're going to take off, and the bike is going to be doing all of the work today and all of the tests that we do. But here we go, pedal assist level 1. The bike speedometer is reading 10.5 miles per hour, and GPS is reading 10. Let's go up into level 2. $15.7 on the speedometer, 14 on GPS. 3. Capped at 20.3 and 18 on GPS. 4. About 25 on GPS, 23 on, or excuse me, 25 on speedometer, 23 on GPS, and level 5. We're hitting almost 31 miles per hour on the built-in speedometer, but 28 on GPS. Okay, we'll do a quick brake test. I'm going to go up to the top speed and then lock them up. These are line-driven 180 millimeter disc brakes, so they are probably not going to be the best brakes in the world, but they should be adequate for stopping this bike. And this bike is going to weigh around probably 75 pounds. I don't remember exactly off the top of my head, but I'll put the weight of the bike on the screen now, and I weigh 190 pounds. And here we go, we're going to lock them up. Yeah, not the best brakes, but they're fine for trail riding like this. All right, with those tests out of the way, basically, that is pretty much, performance-wise, all this bike has to offer. Now we're going to test its main draw, and that is its range. I'm going to ride down 10 miles. We're going to do a hill test down there. Then we're going to come back 10 miles and see what kind of battery life we have on our battery. And we're going to be doing this at 20 miles per hour according to the bike speedometer, which we tested against GPS to be about 18 miles per hour. Here's a minor little hill climb test. If you look over at the railroad track, you'll see we've got a little bit of a hill here. And again, the action camera does flatten hills out. So this is a little bit more steep than what it appears to be based on what the action camera is showing. But here we go. This is in level 3. I could have taken it up to level 5 and it would have crushed it even better, but it made it up there no problem. It's got non-adjustable suspension shocks up front and an air shock right under the seat, so it does make for a fairly comfortable ride when you pair that with the 20-inch fat tires. And I'm running, I think, right around 22 PSI in these tires. It says on the tires inflate from 20 to 30 PSI, so I went with 22 for that, like just a little over minimum, but still a fairly soft ride. It's doing a good job of absorbing all the dips and bumps and rocks and sticks that I'm hitting in the road here. And this trail does get pretty rough by the time we get to where I'm going. I'm in my 3rd year of reviewing e-bikes now, and every year I'm amazed at how much cheaper they get and how much higher the specs get. But sometimes you gotta ask what corners were cut to keep the price so low. And with this bike in particular, it's a fairly cheap bike, but it's got a big battery and it's got a 750 watt, 1500 watt peak motor. So those are pretty good specs. And this is coming in at under $800, like $799. With this having a 30 amp hour battery, those specs were unheard of at that price this time last year. So as I said, e-bikes are getting cheaper and cheaper and the specs are getting better and better. Well, they're so mass-produced now that the frames and components are really being produced about as cheap as they can be produced. So the way that I've found that a lot of manufacturers beginning this year are keeping the prices down is that they are passing the labor onto the consumer. And let's go over the assembly process of this bike now. Assembly is not going smooth. This one requires more buyer assembly than most bikes from the factory. I don't like that. Alright, so I got to put the shock in place and put the crankset on from the other side, and I just felt a raindrop, so this is not an ideal situation for a bike that requires extra assembly from the factory. This is stuff that I really would have liked to seen done from the factory. Anyway, I'm going to get on it. But to get this shock in place, we got to take this bolt out here, swing the wheel down, line the shock up right there, and put it back in, and it should be pretty easy. Just, you know, more tedium than I want to deal with. Alright, I'm getting ready to put the crankset on now, and what I've done is I'm just resting the chain right here because I want to make sure the chain is behind the crankset before I put it on. And there, I've got the crankset started, and I'm going to give it just a soft little tap with the rubber mallet to set it, and then I'll put this back in and tighten it down, and then the crankset will be on and ready to roll. Alright, so I really like this seat, but I want to show you something here. These nuts, the bolts that come through these nuts don't fasten too very tight. They're just not very long. Ideally, we would want like maybe another 1/8 or 1/4 of an inch for these to come through so that we could put nylock nuts on these, because the thing is with bikes, they vibrate a lot. These are going to vibrate over time and come off of here. I'm going to add a dab of blue Loctite to each one of these, but a better design would be just a little bit longer bolts and nylock nuts. That would keep this seat on, and we'd never have to worry about it coming off. So here's a design flaw that led to me doing a little bit of choice cursing. I put these bolts on, got them started, put my wrench in there, my ratcheting wrench in there, tightened it down, and as it brought the bolt through, now I can't get my wrench out of there. And I can't flip it over to loosen it up to take the nut off of there. So I gotta go round up a 10mm and take it off slowly by hand, and take it off slowly, one crank at a time, to get this wrench out. My God, like, just give me a little notch here. Give me a little notch to cut out here. Seriously. And now this wrench is in the way of me getting this one in here to loosen it back up. What a terrible design. You know what? The headlight is really nice. It's got these two little tabs that stick out the back here that rest on the forks to keep it from getting all whopper jawed. So they did a good job there. So saving a few bucks with the labor being passed off the consumer could be a good or bad thing depending on where you're coming from. Basically, if you are broke and you don't have the money, but you do have the time, that's a good thing. But if your time is worth a lot, then I think it's really better to spend a little extra and have a little bit more assembly done from the factory. Do I think the bike is worth it at 800 bucks? So far, so good. Now, like I said, it does have some cheap components. Like the frame is pretty cheap, the suspension's cheap, the pedals are cheap, the chain is cheap, this controller screen is cheap. I imagine the controller itself is pretty cheap. The motor is probably pretty bargain bin. The big thing that this bike has going for it is that massive 30 amp hour battery. That is, if the manufacturer is not lying about the specs. And it's a super scientific method that I'm using to determine whether it is a 30 amp hour battery or not. I'm going to be basing how it performs in comparison to another bike that I have that is very similar to this, a little bit higher quality build, but a much lower amp hour battery. It's the Hovsco Hov GTRS. Now that bike weighs maybe a little bit less than this one, but it's got about the same riding stance, and it has a 15 amp hour battery. And when you run that bike flat out pretty rough, it's going to go about 20 miles. That's 20 miles total. I'm saying at like the 15 mile mark, you want to wrap it up and go home and start charging that thing. And it has a 15 amp hour battery. With this thing being a 30 amp hour battery, it should perform about the same, but go much further. According to the built-in speedometer, we've held 20 miles per hour for a total of 6 miles, and we're still at a full charge according to the battery meter. So one thing about the battery meters on these cheaper e-bikes, and this is definitely a cheap meter, they always kind of err on the side of showing that you're over full on your battery when you're above the halfway mark, and then when you drop under halfway, they tend to plummet to zero pretty fast. So even though this says we're at 100% after 6 miles, we're probably closer to like 90 or 80%. Now, when these bikes get under halfway, it's time to go home, because I've been on bikes before where you can ride for like 10, 12 miles and then they'll drop down to 4 bars. And so you think, oh, I can go like 100 miles on this bike. No, that is not the case. Once the battery meter starts dropping, that's when you want to start paying a lot closer attention. So these cheaper battery meters, when you get down to say like the 80% mark, you're probably closer to like 50%. It's old Bovine Joni over there, living on a prayer. Now I do a lot of my testing, especially long range testing on these rail and trails like this, but this bike is probably more suited for like going up into your highest pedal assist level and bopping around your neighborhood and having fun like that. All right, this is where this trail really starts to get pretty bumpy, and this is where I'm going to be happy to have those fat tires and the rear suspension on this bike, because it does get rough through this section right here. Oh, rattle your teeth out here. All right, we are coming up on our 10-mile mark right now, and this says 11, and it's set 11 for a hot minute, so it's probably getting ready to tick over 12. So the odometer is definitely off by a little bit. All right, I'll do a quick little walk around to the bike now so I can show you what we get. Like I said, it's got a pretty cheap build overall. It's using bargain bin components to put the thing together, but I mean, you know, it's got that 30 amp hour battery, which I am really convinced that it truly is a 30 amp hour battery. Now, the quality of those cells might be something worth questioning, but we are at the 10-mile mark now, 11 on the odometer, but I know for a fact this is the 10-mile mark, and we're still holding at 5 bars on the energy meter, if that is to be trusted. Anyway, we got a really super simple basic set of controls here. Shimano shifter, quarter twist throttle, basic cable pull brakes, plastic fender front and rear, which that's not a bad thing. I prefer plastic fenders. Really nice headlight, 20x4 Denput brand fat tires, and they are the basic gravel tread. We've got cast rims front and rear, 750 watt motor with 1000 watt peak. Oddly enough, it's got folding pedals, which I'm guessing this is just what they had laying around or what they could get cheap to throw on there. We've got an adjustable air shock here, and it does ride pretty comfortable. Single ring chain guard. We got no tail light or turn signals or brake light in the back, but I do like this seat, and it rides pretty comfortable. Here's another hill that we're going to climb on our way back. It is not super steep, but it's long, and it will take it out of you on a traditional bicycle. I wanted to show you this now so that when I switch over to the action cam, you'll see how much it gets flattened out. Here we go up that hill. I am going to pop up into level 5 for this. And yeah, this is a pretty peppy little bike. It's making pretty short work of this hill. Like I said, this hill is not super steep, but it's long. And this has made very short work of it. But when you have to pedal up this on a traditional bicycle, if you're pretty tired, it'll hit you pretty hard. All right, so now all we have to do is drop back down into level 3 and head back to the beginning at 20 miles per hour, and we're going to see what kind of battery life we have left at the end of that 10 miles, which would make it 20 miles total. So far we're still at 5 bars. I don't trust that though. But I do trust that it's actually a 30 amp hour battery. All right, my final thoughts on the Cybervelo EK11. Well, it is what it is, and what it is a cheap, fun bike with a massive battery, which is also probably a pretty cheap battery with a bunch of cells crammed into it. Should you buy something with a lower amp hour count but higher quality battery? Well, me personally, I always want more, and that's what I want until the battery goes kaput, and then I'm pedaling the thing home. But I know how my brain works, and I have no regrets until I regret it, so that's what I would do. Anyway, stick around till the end of the video if you want to see the final range test for this bike. All right, we just passed the Eagle mile marker back there. That means we've got 1 mile left to go to get back to the beginning of the ride, and that will put us at 20 miles on the dot. Now our built-in odometer is saying 21 miles, so it's probably going to tick to 22, or well, just tick to 22. So it might get close to 23 miles for this built-in odometer by the time we get there, but I promise you that's only going to be 20 miles. Right now we're sitting at 3 bars out of 5, and I've ridden this entire route at 20 miles per hour, so carrying a bike of this weight along with my weight along with it at that speed, at that sustained speed for that long, that's a lot of energy that we've expended, and it's still got 3 bars left. Now, like I said, should you trust that battery meter? That's probably actually closer to like 1 or 2 bars, and I'll look at the battery when we stop up here to see what it says. But it's still pretty impressive, and I do believe that this is indeed a 30 amp hour battery. All right, we are almost at the end, so I'm going to go up to level 5 just to see if we've got any voltage sag. When we did our speed test initially, we were hitting like 30 point something on the built-in speedometer here, so let's see if we can still get up to that speed now after we've ridden the bike this far and as hard as we've ridden it. All right, it looks like it's capping out at about 28 miles per hour, which that's probably closer to 26. And that is in level 5. So we do have some voltage sag going on here. All right, here we are back to where we started. So we did indeed go down 10 miles, came back 10 miles. The built-in mileage on the odometer says that we went 23 miles and we got 3 bars left. But we know for a fact that was actually 20. And I want to look at the voltage meter on the battery itself here. And it's saying 4 bars out of 5. So it just comes down to which one do you trust. Either way, I'm certain for a fact that is indeed a 30 amp hour battery. That's pretty impressive for a bike of this price.